I first noticed the paint samples when I came back from my 3rd round of chemo. They were fanned out like fallen leaves on the kitchen counter. Shades of blush, rose, seashell pink. There was a coffee ring stamped over Cotton Candy Dream, like someone had flipped the catalog open and forgotten it wasn't theirs to use. I stood there in my wool hat and surgical mask, looking at swatches that had nothing to do with me. I remember reaching for a bottle of water and my hand trembling, so badly I had to sit down. Mom didn't even look up when I asked, "Is someone painting a room?" She just said, "You should drink more. You look pale." I wanted to say I was pale. I was losing my hair. My eyebrows were nearly gone. My legs ached constantly, and the taste of metal was stuck to everything I ate. Pale wasn't the problem, but I nodded, and I drank. Because you learn to shrink inside sickness when the room around you doesn't care. The nursery was finished before my next scan. A whole room, gutted and redone. New hardwood floors, a moon-shaped nightlight, framed watercolor animals that looked like they were exhaling peace. The crib was carved, soft white, probably imported. Everything in the room whispered beloved. It had been Dad's old study, and before that, the guest room I'd sleep in whenever I was too weak to walk upstairs. But now it was hers. My sister, Madison, 8 months pregnant, glowing. They said I should be happy for her. They said I had to understand. "This is what families do, sweetie," Mom had said, pressing a hand against my back like a reminder that I still existed. I stared at the pastel clouds painted on the ceiling and felt something uncoil inside me. It wasn't jealousy. I didn't want the room. I didn't want the crib or the wooden name plaque above the window that read, Luna Grace. I just wanted my dignity. Madison's baby shower was held the week after my PET scan. They didn't wait for results. Didn't ask when I'd be well enough to attend. They assumed, as always, that I'd be there. Quiet. Smiling. Camera ready, but unseen. I came late. Sat in the corner. Watched strangers unwrap bows and whisper, "Miracle." She looked at me only once, when someone handed her a check from one of Dad's golf buddies, and she squealed like it was a new car. I saw her catch my eye and then deliberately look away. Later, in the hallway, I overheard her say, "God, I just hope she doesn't make it about her again." I froze. About me? She was talking to our cousin. They stood in front of the guest bathroom, framed by tissue paper and champagne flutes, and didn't lower their voices. "She had her moment," Madison continued, with a roll of her eyes. "Like, I get it. Cancer. But now I'm bringing life into the family, you know?" The real moment I broke was quieter than that. It came the following week, when I sat down with Dad at the dining table to go over my insurance paperwork. I was trying to figure out how much was left from the GoFundMe my college friends had started when I was first diagnosed. The number didn't make sense. It was less than half of what I remembered. I asked him gently, because you always have to be gentle when your pain is inconvenient, if anything had been moved. He didn't flinch. He didn't lie. He just said, "We had to put some of it toward the renovation, you know, for the nursery. That baby's going to need everything, as if I hadn't already given everything, as if I wasn't still giving." I didn't cry until I got to the laundry room. The hum of the dryer muffled the sounds. I leaned into the wall, pressed my hand against the cool tile, and let the tears fall. Not loudly. Just a slow leak from a dam I hadn't noticed was cracking. I wasn't even crying about the money. It was the way he said it, like I had no claim to my own fight. Like the life they were excited about made mine feel like an interruption. Like they'd already decided who was worth saving. Madison never liked hospitals. When we were kids, she'd wait in the car while I got stitches or x-rays, or checkups. Even then, she had a way of making my pain feel like an inconvenience. Not to her directly, but to the mood of the day, to the air we shared, to the way Mom's voice tightened when she had to deal with both girls at once. I remember once, when I was 12, I fainted in the driveway. Heat stroke. Dad carried me inside, and Madison stood at the door with her arms crossed, saying, "Why does she always need attention?" She was 8 then. It stayed with me. Years pass. But some voices echo in the way people don't show up for you. When I went in for surgery last month, she didn't come. She posted an Instagram story that morning. A smoothie bowl, a caption, about prenatal zen. She had a tag for the brand of protein powder, like that was her priority. I saw it while I was waiting for anesthesia to kick in. My nurse tucked a blanket around my shoulders and asked if my family would be there when I woke up. I smiled and said yes, because I still lie like a loyal daughter. They came. Technically. Dad brought a bouquet he clearly didn't pick out. Mom stayed 10 minutes longer than she wanted. They both checked their phones when I started to ask about the pathology report. No, one brought up the money. No one apologized. 2 weeks later, a baby shower thank you card arrived at my door. I stared at the handwriting. It was Madison's, or maybe Mom's, or both. Their script looked eerily similar now. Curvy, practiced, emotionless. There was no mention of my gift, because I hadn't given one. There was no mention of me at all. Just a photo of the nursery. The pastel walls. The crib. The soft gray rocking chair with the throw blanket I bought for myself 3 birthdays ago. Now folded neatly over the arm like a prop. Like a repurposed memory. I finally brought it up at dinner. It was a Thursday night. Rain against the windows. I had just made it through 2 back-to-back radiation appointments. My chest ached. I couldn't taste my food. And something about the silence, the way no one asked how I was, made me feel like a ghost at my own funeral. So I asked, "What happened to the GoFundMe?" Forks paused. Eyes shifted. I didn't ask with anger. I asked like someone holding a burnt photograph, trying to remember the face that used to live in it. Dad cleared his throat first. We talked about this. "No," I said softly. "You talked. I wasn't part of it." Mom spoke next. Her voice was tight, rehearsed. "We had to make a choice. You weren't using all of it, and it's all still within the family." Blinked. Weren't using all of it, as if I was hoarding survival, as if cancer was a budget. Madison arrived late. She was glowing, not from pregnancy anymore, but from comfort, from applause. From being the one everyone had rallied around. She didn't greet me. She walked past me, kissed Mom on the cheek, and started talking about Luna's sleep schedule, like it was the most sacred thing in the world. Then she looked at me. "Are you still upset about the fundraiser?" she said, with a smirk she didn't bother to hide. I said nothing. She shrugged. "I mean, you should be happy you got through it. Some people don't. Be grateful. Be grateful." The words didn't hit me like knives. They hit me like snow. Cold. Slow. Suffocating in silence. I didn't speak for the rest of the night. When the dishes were cleared, I grabbed my coat and left without a word. No one called after me. The street outside was damp and quiet. I walked home under a streetlight that buzzed like it wanted to fail. My legs were tired. My chest still burned. But I kept walking. Because if I sat down, I knew I might never get back up again in the quiet of my apartment. I opened my laptop. I pulled up the GoFundMe page, and I clicked Download Full Transaction Report. Then I opened a spreadsheet. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. Out of the slow, painful need to finally know the cost of being invisible. The spreadsheet loaded slowly, as if even the pixels were reluctant to show me the truth. Every line was a timestamp. Every number was a choice. $400. Furniture deposit. Baby room, $85. Custom paint blush peach, $1,200. Carpet installment. Nursery, $200. Prenatal massage gift card, $3,000. Crib plus glider bundle, $49.99. Sound machine, Luna's sleep aid, $16.99. Wall decals, starry sky theme. There was my name at the top of the campaign. There was the photo from the hospital bed, me in a scarf, and IV line, smiling weakly. Back when I still believed the world would meet pain with compassion. And there were the withdrawals. The way it bled out. I closed the laptop and just sat there. For a long time. No tears this time. No rage. Just the feeling of watching a rope burn at both ends, and realizing you were the one holding it in the middle. It wasn't about the money. It never had been. It was about how casually they decided my life could wait, so hers could be prettier. So Luna Grace could have blush peach walls while I learned to budget my medication doses. The next morning, I emailed the campaign's supporters. Not everyone. Just the ones who had left personal messages. The ones who said things like, "You've got this, warrior," or "You're not alone." The ones who tagged their names with hearts. I didn't ask for anything. I just told the truth. That the campaign had been diverted. That I was grateful, still, for their support. But they deserved to know it hadn't gone where they thought. Some of them replied within hours. Some with kindness. Some with anger. One with a link to a lawyer. That night, for the first time in months, I slept. 2 days later, I got a call from Mom. Her voice was flat. "Did you send out some kind of message to people?" I didn't lie. "Yes." A pause. Then, "Do you have any idea how that makes us look?" Us. Not you. Not what happened. Just the reputation of the family. "I didn't say anything false," I replied. "You're stirring drama when we're finally at peace." I almost laughed. Peace? Their peace was built on my silence, on my donation, on the idea that I'd keep shrinking so they could keep expanding. Later that week, I came home from an appointment to find a box outside my door. Inside, the throw blanket. The same one Madison had draped over her glider like a magazine ad. Folded perfectly, like they thought a clean return made it moral. No note. Just fabric that still smelled like lavender baby lotion. I picked it up with both hands, stared at it for a while, then walked it straight to the donation bin down the street. It deserved to warm someone who hadn't forgotten where it came from. The next day, I received a message from an unfamiliar number. "Hey, I'm Claire. I donated to your fundraiser months ago. I read your email and I just wanted to say, you didn't deserve any of that. People suck sometimes. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I stared at it for a long time. A stranger's kindness, heavier than all my family's silence. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. Madison's baby announcement went up on Facebook that weekend. A perfect square of curated joy, her in a white robe. Luna swaddled in pink. The caption read, "She's everything we ever dreamed of, a miracle in motion. Thank you to everyone who made this possible." I looked at it and felt nothing, not even anger, just a quiet shift inside me, like a door slowly clicking shut in a room I no longer needed to enter. In the silence of my apartment, I made a cup of tea and turned on my reading lamp. There was no nursery, no crib, no applause, but there was air and space, and peace not borrowed from anyone else's suffering. I opened a new tab, typed in the name of a lawyer the donor had recommended, and just sat there, not to file a suit, not yet, just to know that I could. The first thing the lawyer asked me was if I wanted an apology or accountability. Both, I said. But if I can only have one, then let it cost them something. Her name was Evelyn Tran. Kind eyes, sharp voice. The kind of woman who could fold empathy and litigation into one smooth breath. She didn't flinch when I told her what happened. She didn't say, "Are you sure?" She didn't say, "That must be a misunderstanding." She just listened, took notes, nodded when I paused. "That was your name on the fundraiser, yes?" she asked. "Yes. Your photo, your story, your diagnosis. All of it." She exhaled slowly. "Then it's not just unethical. It may be criminal misrepresentation. I didn't walk into that office looking for revenge. I walked in because I wanted the ache to stop echoing. I wanted someone, anyone, to say, 'You were right to hurt,' because no one in my family ever did. They used words like confusion, shared expenses, miscommunication. But what it really was theft. Emotional theft. Financial theft. The kind of betrayal that doesn't leave bruises but makes your body flinch every time the phone rings. The legal path wasn't quick. Nothing healing ever is. There were forms, documents, bank transfers I had to request. Evelyn drafted a letter, not a lawsuit, not yet, just a formal statement of intent to investigate misuse of charitable donations. It was a quiet warning, like tapping a glass of water right before it spills. 3 days later, Madison showed up at my apartment unannounced. She didn't knock, just banged. I opened the door because I didn't want the neighbors to call security. She was holding the letter. "You're trying to ruin us," she snapped, not even waiting to be let in. I stood in the doorway, blocking her view of my home. A symbolic line I didn't even realize I'd drawn. "I'm trying to protect what was mine. It's just money." "Then why are you so angry I want it accounted for?" Her mouth opened, closed. For once, she didn't have the last word. She stormed off down the hall, muttering something about loyalty. I didn't follow. I didn't explain. Because that's the thing about people who mistake your silence for agreement. They panic when you start speaking without raising your voice. That night, I pulled out the old journal I'd been too tired to write in, the one from before the chemo, before the fundraiser, before the nursery. I wrote one line. "This time, I am not leaving the room so they can stay comfortable in it." Then I closed it. Mom called the next day. Her voice was low. Not tired. Careful. Like she wasn't sure what version of me she was going to get anymore. "I saw what you sent. To the lawyer. I had to. I just wish you'd come to us first. I almost laughed. I did. For years. I came to you. Every time I was hurting and you told me to be happy for someone else. She was quiet. I continued, voice steady. No malice in it. Just memory. I lay in a hospital bed alone while you redecorated a room I used to throw up in. I looked at a receipt for a rocking chair while wondering if I'd see another Christmas. I was surviving. You were nesting. Still no words. So I offered her silence, the most honest language we ever shared. At the next doctor's appointment, I asked my oncologist if stress affected healing. She smiled gently. Of course. So I canceled Thanksgiving. I didn't. Explain. I didn't argue. I just sent one text to the group chat. I'll be staying home this year. Please don't contact me until further notice. Madison replied with a single emoji. Mom said, we were only trying to do what was best for the family. Dad didn't reply at all. Turned off my phone, ordered Thai food for one, and sat by the window with a thick blanket and no obligation to smile. The leaves were almost gone. The wind pushed soft curls of dust against the glass. And for the first time in a long while, the quiet didn't feel lonely. It felt earned. I hadn't spoken to anyone in my family for 6 weeks. No birthdays, no Sunday check-ins, no passive-aggressive group texts about being too sensitive. The world didn't collapse. In fact, my chest ached less. It's strange how silence can become a kind of medicine. Not the kind that heals the disease, but the kind that gives you space to finally breathe around it. The fundraiser was quietly closed. Evelyn helped me write a final statement. Short, honest, not vindictive. The purpose of this campaign was to assist with my medical recovery. Unfortunately, some of the funds were redirected without my consent. The account is now closed. I'm deeply grateful for those who supported me, emotionally, financially, and truthfully. That was it. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. The truth has a weight to it. Even when it's barely whispered, it thuds when it lands. Claire texted, me again. The donor who first reached out. This time, she sent a photo. A coffee cup beside a book I mentioned in my fundraiser caption, When Breath Becomes Air. Thought of you. Hope you're okay. If you ever want to meet in person, I'm around. No pressure. I stared at the screen for a while, thumb hovering over the reply button. And then, I said yes. Not because I was healed, but because I was tired of drinking tea in silence. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted someone to hear my voice without needing to defend their own reflection. We met at a quiet bookstore cafe, tucked behind a row of dusty antiques. Claire was kind in the softest way, like she knew how to sit in silence without trying to fill it. She didn't ask me to retell everything. She didn't lean in like gossip mattered. She just asked, "How's your body feeling today?" Not, "How are you?" but your body. Like she understood that pain and personhood aren't always the same thing. I told her the truth, that I was tired, that some days I still woke up feeling like someone had replaced my lungs with lead. She nodded. You're still here. And somehow that felt better than "you're so strong" or "you've got this," or any of the phrases people use to wrap your suffering in booze. A week later, I went through my old closet, the one in the corner of my apartment that I'd been too tired to open for months. Inside were all the gifts I'd bought for Madison over the years. Unopened candles, framed photos of us as kids, a baby blanket I ordered when I first found out she was pregnant. Back when I still believed love would be reciprocated, I packed everything in a brown paper bag, walked it 2 blocks to the nearest women's shelter, didn't leave my name. Some things aren't meant to be returned. They're meant to be released. Then came the letter, not from my parents, not from Madison, from the hospital billing department. A notice that part of my last chemo cycle remained unpaid. A delay in insurance approval, something about a changed policy mid-year. Balance due, $38.44. Stared at it for a long time. $3,844. The number sat in my throat like it wanted to become a scream. Because I had that money. Because they had it first. Because my body had paid twice for every dollar they dressed up in nursery pink. Didn't cry. I went online, found the campaign archive, downloaded the donor list again. One by one, I typed out individual thank you messages. Not automated, not cold. Just, your help gave me time. I wanted you to know it mattered. Some replied, some didn't. But in the middle of it all, one donor sent another $500, just wrote, "For whatever the world took from you without asking." I sat with that for a long time, because for once, I didn't feel ashamed of needing help. I felt human. Claire and I started seeing each other more often. Little things, book fairs, late-night walks, sitting on my porch with matching chipped mugs. She didn't fill the space my family left. She made me realize I never needed to earn belonging through sacrifice, that maybe love wasn't a transaction. Maybe I didn't have to bleed to be noticed. Maybe surviving didn't mean staying somewhere I was never seen. And still, no one from home called. Not on my remission date. Not on my birthday. Not when I quietly posted that I was moving cities at the end of the month. I expected the anger to return, but all I felt was a blank peace, like setting down a heavy coat after walking through a storm, only to realize it wasn't raining anymore. I found a new apartment by the water, just 1 bedroom, no room for guests, no room for excuses, but enough room for me. Just me. And that would finally be enough. The apartment I found was nothing special. Yellowing walls, a creaky floorboard in the hallway, a radiator that made hollow noises like it was still learning how to breathe, but the windows opened wide. And the view, just a quiet canal, some rusted bikes chained to old iron rails, felt like something from a painting no one had ever bothered to frame. It didn't smell like baby lotion, or old dinners I didn't eat, or bleach from the bathroom. I used to cry in. It smelled like space, like me. I signed the lease in soft black ink, alone, on a Tuesday morning. The landlord was a woman named Farah. Mid-60s, hair coiled into a silver braid, eyes that flickered with kindness she never had to announce. "You're not from around here, are you?" she asked while handing me the spare keys. "No," I said. "I think that's the point." She smiled like she understood, like she had once packed her entire life into 2 suitcases and left before the apology came. Moving wasn't a dramatic thing. No storm, no confrontation. I boxed what I owned, left behind what I didn't. I sold the twin bed I'd used through chemo, left the bookshelf I built the week after radiation, the one where the screws never aligned and the top always leaned a little left, like it was tired too. When I closed the door to my old place, I didn't look back, just slid the key under the mat and walked out, There was no final scene, just a quiet exit. Claire helped me unpack. She brought banana bread and chamomile tea in a thermos. We didn't talk much. She folded dish towels while I arranged the mugs. I had 2 now. 1 for me, 1 for whoever stayed long enough to earn a second pour. "You okay?" she asked once, placing a photo of me on the windowsill. I looked at it, taken before treatment. My hair thick, eyes bright, face unmarked by fatigue. I didn't feel like her anymore. But I nodded. Getting there. The new space gave me room to remember without collapsing. Some nights, I sat by the open window and wrote letters I never intended to send. To Mom, to Madison, even to Dad. They were soft, not angry, just true. You didn't lose me. You gave me away. I was not jealous of her life. I was grieving my own. Survival should have been enough, but somehow you needed me small too. I tore them up and scattered the pieces into the trash. Not because they didn't matter, but because they weren't mine to carry anymore. Evelyn emailed. Her voice, even in text, still made me feel like someone was holding a shield beside me. "There's been no formal response from your family's side. I believe they're hoping silence will wear you down. Let me know how you'd like to proceed. There's no wrong answer." I stared at the blinking cursor. It blinked like breath, like hesitation. Then I typed, "I don't want to pursue legal action anymore, but I want a record. Something that says this happened, that I wasn't imagining it. If they ever try to do this to someone else, I want there to be a trail." She replied within minutes. "Then we'll file an affidavit. Quiet, permanent, yours." And, for the first time in months, I felt something click back into place inside me. Not revenge, not victory, just proof that I was no longer invisible. Spring came late this year, a cold one, the kind that made flowers hesitate. But on the first truly warm day, I stood barefoot on the small balcony and drank coffee from my chipped blue mug, the one I'd kept since college. There was no celebration, no one clapping, no miracle banner, strung up with pink ribbons, just me, alive. The phone buzzed once that afternoon, a message from an unknown number. "Luna took her first steps today. Just thought you might want to know." No name. But I knew. I let the message sit there. Didn't respond. Didn't delete it either. Some ghosts are meant to live quietly in your phone, not to be resurrected. Just remembered. Gently. From a distance, and when the sun dipped behind the roofline and the wind returned, I pulled the curtain closed, turned on the small lamp in the corner, and curled up beneath the soft gray blanket Claire gave me last month. It wasn't a gift for surviving. It wasn't an apology someone forgot to write. It was warmth, freely offered, and this time, mine to keep. My birthday came quietly. No Facebook post, no reminders, no balloons, not even a slice of cake from a coworker. I'd stopped mentioning it years ago. Too many times the day had come and gone without a single text from the people who raised me. When you grow up believing you're too much or not enough, you learn how to disappear politely. I spent the morning with my phone on airplane mode. The only thing on my calendar was an afternoon walk along the canal and a call with my therapist at 6 p.m. I had no dinner plans, no list of people to update, no family dinner to endure out of obligation. And yet, around 2 p.m., I caught myself, staring out the window, waiting for nothing in particular. That was the part I hated most, not the loneliness, but the reflex. Claire called that evening, not with fanfare, not with flowers, just a voice that sounded like rest. "Did you do anything today?" she asked. "Walked. Thought. Bought myself a tiny cake." "What kind?" "Lemon." She paused. "You hate lemon." "I used to," I said. "But I think I only hated it because Mom loved it. I thought it meant I had to dislike it too." She hummed softly. "That makes sense." And in that small exchange, I realized something strange. I was allowed to change my mind. I was allowed to become someone else, someone who could light a candle alone and still feel seen. The next morning, there was a package outside my door. No return address, wrapped in brown paper, tied with a pale yellow string. Inside, a first edition of When Breath Becomes Air. Tucked inside the cover, a handwritten note. "Happy birthday. For who you were, who you are, and who you'll choose to be next." See, I didn't cry. I just ran my fingers across the inscription, slowly, like it was the first time my name had ever been written without weight. That week, Evelyn sent me the finalized affidavit. No court drama, no hearings, just a sealed document I could keep. Proof that it had happened, that the fundraiser was misused, that my silence had been mistaken for agreement, and that I'd corrected the record without having to burn down what little family name I still had. I printed a copy, slid it into the back of a file folder labeled Health. And for the first time, it didn't feel like something I needed to carry in my chest. 3 days later, a letter arrived from my parents, real paper, handwritten. The envelope had a floral border like a card pulled from the back of a forgotten drawer. Inside, "We heard. You're doing well. Madison told us you moved. We're glad you're okay. Luna is walking now. Maybe it's time we all sat down and talked, face to face. We still love you, even if things got messy. Family is still family." I read it 3 times. They never said, "Sorry." They never said we were wrong. Just a soft revision of history. One where no one was guilty, only misunderstood. I didn't write back. Instead, I wrote myself something. They love the idea of me. Not the version that demanded to be treated like a person. Not the one who stopped giving. Just the ghost who stayed silent, stayed kind, stayed available. That version of me doesn't live here anymore. On the last Sunday of the month, Claire and I drove to the edge of the coast. The sky was gray, the kind of cold that stings your nose but clears your lungs. We stood on the rocks and watched the tide rise and fall like breath. She reached out and gently touched my hand. No pressure, no performance, just presence. And for once, I didn't brace myself. That night, I tucked into bed under the soft light of my reading lamp, the first edition book on my nightstand, and a quiet in my heart that didn't ache. It didn't feel like closure, or justice, or forgiveness. It felt like finally putting down a story that had written me wrong, and beginning a new one in my own hand. Spring turned into summer, softly, without ceremony. The kind of shift you only notice when the light lingers longer, across the hardwood floor, and the breeze smells less like regret and more like rain warmed by pavement. I didn't tell anyone I was in remission again. Not Mom, not Dad, not Madison. There was no mass email, no family group chat revival, no announcement with carefully crafted emojis, just a quiet doctor's visit, a scan, a nod, a breath, and me, walking home with the kind of stillness in my chest I hadn't known in years. Claire met me at the cafe that afternoon. She didn't know, yet either. I didn't need her to cheer. I just needed her to sit with me in the space between endings and beginnings. I slid the paper across the table, the one with my name and the word clear. She read it, then looked at me. Not like I was a miracle, just like I was here. Then she smiled, soft, private, and said, "You hungry?" We celebrated by not celebrating. We walked to the small park with the broken bench, got fries from the cart that always undersalted, ate in silence while a child ran in slow circles chasing a bubble that had already popped. That felt like the right kind of joy, the kind that doesn't need to be shared to be real. Weeks passed. The silence from my family stayed. This time, it didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like proof that I had left. Not geographically. Emotionally. I had stepped off the stage they built for me, the one where I was always either the fragile one or the helper, but never the person with needs. And without me there, the performance paused. Maybe even ended. I didn't check in. I didn't need to. One afternoon, I opened an old email folder labeled Family. Dozens of messages. Birthday photos I was never invited to. Links to fundraisers I never benefited from. One particularly, painful chain titled, Madison's Birth Plan, Family Roles. I scrolled, read, didn't cry. Then I did something I never thought I would. I hit archive all, not delete, just put away. Some stories don't need to be burned, just shelved. So they don't keep interrupting the new ones you're trying to write. I started painting. Nothing impressive, just small squares on cheap canvases. I painted the things I never said. A closed door with light underneath, a hand reaching for a window, a girl curled up beside a radiator with a book in her lap. I hung them in the hallway. Every time I passed, I remembered. That girl lived. She got out. She made it. Claire stayed. Not like a storm. Not like a promise. Just like someone who understood that not all love arrives with fireworks. Some love just shows up with quiet hands and a grocery bag, and knows how to sit beside you when your past calls without speaking. One night, as we brushed teeth side by side in the small bathroom, no words, no makeup, no illusion, I looked at her in the mirror and thought, this is what family should have felt like. Not perfect, just present. It's strange, the things I don't miss. The house, the holidays, the fake apologies, the baby updates I never asked for, the blanket they returned, the voice that told me to be grateful for surviving while they spent my breath on pink walls. I don't miss any of it. I miss who I used to be, the girl who still believed she'd be enough if she just stayed kind enough, quiet enough, generous enough. But I don't want to be her again. I'd rather be this version, the one who didn't let bitterness win, the one who didn't make pain her home, the one who walked away, not because she hated them, but because she finally loved herself more. I don't need revenge. I just need peace. And I have it now, in this apartment, in this body, in this quiet. in this life I built. One cup, one book, one boundary at a time.